All right, guys. Welcome back, everybody, to the Trading Triangle. After a little bit of a hiatus, we're back and ready to get at it, get to trading, looking at charts, having a good time of it. And I appreciate everybody that tunes in. So welcome back again to the Trading Triangle. I'm real quick up front, disclaimer, as always, we are not financial professionals or financial advisors. Everything on this live stream and recording should be considered, for entertainment and educational value only. And again, appreciate you guys tuning in. We have a good time talking about our trade ideas for the week, and we'll get into a bunch of tickers and audience requests as well. So make sure that you guys get in those audience requests. We want to look at what tickers you're interested in, and then we have a few lined up front like we always do. So Sean, how you doing today? Doing well?
I'm doing really well. There's not a cloud in the sky, and that's very rare for England. So, I made the most of it. Went out to the beach this morning. So, yeah, feeling pretty good about a week ahead.
Oh, Sean's having a full day already. I love it.
Yeah.
Nice. That's I could see the glow. It was the beach. That's what it is.
Could you see the sunburn? Is that what it is?
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. How about you, Kaye? How you been?
I'm doing great, man. Good to be back. Excited. Let's do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that you just said it. Let's get right to it, shall we? And again, guys, send in those ticker requests, and we'll get after them. Appreciate everybody tuning in on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to the Trading Triangle if you haven't already. And also on X, we're on Wolf Financial and at Trader Nate here. So having a good time of it, and looking at last week's numbers. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about, honestly, you guys. I mean, all these names, big moves in one direction or another. What caught your attention, Kaye?
I think I was mostly focused on Tesla and Nvidia. I had few trades open last week for these guys, Tesla, Nvidia, Meta, which I was basically managing and closing them out. So all my trades expired worthless, so it was a full 100% profit.
Gotcha. How about you, Sean?
I can't really remember any specific trades. I had a good week. It was a green week, but it was a messy week, wasn't it? We had CPI, we had GameStop running. All of these things happening. It was crazy, absolutely crazy. So I basically sat back and just took small wins, especially with obviously the volatility around CPI, up, down, up, down, up, down. So just kind of took small wins, and it just compounded nicely. So yeah, no, not too bad.
The GameStop and meme stock mania was unexpected. I did not see that coming back when it did. But, big push, big pullback, not my style. I wrote about that in the newsletter this week, actually, and getting that back on publication. And I was looking at finance. If you look in the sector there, a lot of green, right? Berkshire, JP Morgan, Bank of America, all these names pushing higher and have been on a pretty steady uptrend. So kind of focus on that sector a little bit. But yeah, let's keep it rolling. Overall, back into the greed sector, or section of the fear and greed index. And Kaye, put to call ratio of 0.69. Has that been like trending in?
It's so because we haven't streamed in the last couple of weeks, I kept tracking the fear and greed, and we were almost like closing on one, maybe 2.5 weeks back, and now you can clearly see from fear we're all the way back to greed, and just shows how optimistic folks are, and there are different calls for you might look at your VIX. It's dropped to 1199. It was almost touching 17. The 50-day SMA for this one is, I think, over 14 right now. So you can clearly see a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, VIX at below 12. I can't remember last time I saw that. You're right.
Yeah.
We've been away a little bit, and that's a low number. Sean, what were you going to say?
Just for me, the Bitcoin one, it's kind of breaking out of a trend line that's been happening for the last kind of couple of months, I think. Maybe slightly longer, looking at basically a bull flag, kind of breaking out of that. So looking to kind of move upwards and obviously towards that kind of 100,000 mark would be interesting to see for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Bitcoin is again surging, right? 67K, solid number, almost even when we noted these numbers. All green across the board. I mean, even IWM, holding above the 208 level there. So small caps doing well, and diamonds, Qs, SPY across the board. So love to see it. I know my long-term portfolio is enjoying it. Hope you guys are too. All right, upcoming earnings this week. I know I'm watching Target and Snowflake in particular, so I have both of those charts this week, but there's a lot going on. What else are you interested in, Kaye?
Nvidia. That's the the big boy in the room, right? Everything else are going to be icing on the cake, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think you can really argue with that. How about you, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, Nvidia is obviously the main party, isn't it? But we're looking at, I'm looking at Li Auto and XPeng as well. Neo hasn't actually released when they're going to do earnings, so it'd be interesting to see if these guys can kind of perform well in the current climate, especially in China. So, yeah, looking forward to that one. I also got Polestar actually on Thursday as well. So they've got them as well. 3 EVs.
Yeah, I missed Polestar. Okay, noted. Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting week. I mean, some of these names are definitely going to get the market's attention. I think Lowe's on Tuesday actually will be interesting to see. And then, yeah, Lowe's and Target actually. But I think we are kind of winding down a little bit. I'm not normally trading earnings, like, as you guys know, but this week with snow, I do think there's an interesting trade setup. So we'll get to that. And I also see we got a few ticker requests coming in. So just a quick comment. Palo Alto, I see. I like that one. So we'll definitely look at that. And Apple. So just noting these real quick so I don't miss them. Let's get to the charts. So we've got the candles for SPY. These are the daily candles. And, I've noted the 3-point. I did it, applied a 3-point Fibonacci here. But really the thing I've noted here, Sean, is the 20-day moving average crossing above the 50. That's about to take place, and we're right at 529, 530, which is one of the resistance levels here. So I think it's an interesting spot, and if it can power through and we get that breakthrough, maybe we see it run a little further. What do you think? You looking optimistic at this point?
Yeah, I think so. I think that typically in the bull market, you get kind of these kind of not massive moves higher. You can see it in the chart here. You can kind of see it's gradually moving upwards. I think that could just probably continue until the next major data point, probably towards the end of the year, or maybe even after the elections. Of course, it's an election year, so it'd be interesting to see if it can keep going. We've had the correction. You can have up to 3 corrections. Well, you can have as many as you want, but up to 3 corrections generally per year. So I would say we probably had that one already. So I think, yeah, but the CPI is coming in as well. I think it's not too bad. So I think we just keep grinding upwards. You
Feels
also
that
get a
way.
down day here and there, but that could be a buying opportunity. Who knows? But yeah, I mentioned at the beginning, I'll stop talking eventually, but as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm taking kind of short wins. Obviously, I am letting winners run as well on a very small case, keeping tight stop losses in that particular case. But yeah, taking kind of small wins in this environment for sure.
Well, after getting a pullback like that, it makes sense to not just go all, diving in, because we could have hit a double top and reversed, right? No doubt about it.
Yeah.
But it looks like we're making higher highs, and maybe I'm with you. I feel like it feels like we're going to continue higher. But what do you think, Kay?
Well, I think for next week in specifically, I think the FOMC meeting minutes are coming out.
Okay.
So that could be, that could be the catalyst. Of course, on Wednesday itself, you also have Nvidia reporting earnings. So that will kind of like set the stage. Either we'll be going up ahead, or we could see a little bit of a pullback. I mean, I have been trading SPY for the last 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, kind of like every alternate day. So I'm kind of getting used to it, but now suddenly the prices are going out of the range as usual, and it becomes a little difficult whenever it's out of the range for me.
Well, yeah, so we've got the level it's pushing up, SPY is pushing up against right now. I've got it's 529.82. Then 539.59 would be the next target, basically trying to get to 540, and then 552. So that's what I'm watching, to see if we can get above the 529 here, 530, and hold, and then just continue to march. But it's been nice to see. Like I said, long-term portfolios feeling good right now, and we want to see more upside. People like to trade the upside more, I think, than reversals and sideways action. Kaye, you and I like that sideways action a little bit, though, because of the selling at premium, right? But yeah. So either way, we'll take advantage of what the market gives us. The Qs jumping over here, RSI, by the way, for SPY was also right at the top of the range, looking really strong. Qs looking the same way, but pulling back a little bit from the 455.50 level I've got here for another 3-point Fibonacci levels that we drew out, which, by the way, is just going, if you're drawing a 3-point fib real quick, you can go from a low point to a high and then to the next low point, right? And that gives you the projected fibs, the 3-point fib for where we're heading next. And I like to use this when we have clear pullbacks and then we take off like this again. Kaye, I think you do the same. Sean, do you use the 3-point fibs much?
I do, yeah. More so on a long term kind of view, like you've done here, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, I think it's a useful tool. All three of us use it. And so that's what I've got applied to both SPY and Qs here. I identified a little bit of a range that, Qs were in, and now we're above this cleanly, above that 446 level. So I've got 455 and then 467 as the next two levels to break through. Yeah, Sean, are you having any thoughts on Qs? It does look like SPY maybe is a little bit smoother, where the Qs is a little bit more erratic, but still going up.
Yeah, and this is the tech nature, isn't it? I think it's a little bit more volatile, should we say. But I can see like a clear breakout trade setup. Obviously, if it comes back down to that 446 line, could be a good entry point for another play back up to 455. Obviously, first target profit zone, and obviously going on from there. If it was to move up, then you're looking at the levels that you mentioned, 467, 479, etc. But we can see we're kind of broken out of that, obviously, with the CPI release on Wednesday. The Tuesday or Wednesday, one of those days, and I'd be looking for a pullback basically to 446 for an entry point. Of course, it could keep going; it could fly through 455. But my trade setup for me typically is that kind of come back down, retest, and move higher.
Right.
I like that.
Looking more for an A+ setup than just riding momentum, right? Okay. Anything else to add on the Qs in the tech sector?
That's it. Just my level was 440 that I would enter the trade in.
Yep, we got some nice volume right there, 440. Nice. All right, well, let's get to some tickers. Sean, you're up first as always, and you got a favorite. We're going to start with Tesla, so I'll hand it over to you, sir.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, Tesla and NIO I've got this week as well. I haven't brought up any of these for quite some time, but I brought them both up now just because they look like quite nice setups, at least in kind of the long-term perspective, in my opinion. I'm going to keep it kind of short and sweet this week. They're both kind of similar, but you can see higher lows with the yellow highlighted sections. Price kind of staying above the two moving averages. You've got the blue one, which is the 20 moving average, and the pink one, which is the 50 moving average. We can see it's been using as both of them as a bit of support in current trading, probably last couple of weeks or so. And I'm looking for a move back up to that $200 level, which of course is a cycle level for Tesla. And if we can push through that, then 215, which would be the 200 moving average at the moment. Obviously, it would probably come down a bit long with time, so it could be 210, 208 or something like that. But just to finish it off, we're still within this massive wedge. If you drew it on a weekly chart, I think I put it on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, so you can have a look at that. We're still within this wedge, so long term, I've been looking at kind of trading the wedge as well on the weekly chart. And the last point I'll make is the RSI. Looking good to move higher, in my opinion.
Yeah, it sure does. It made a nice little pullback here, kind of tests the midpoint, and now moving higher. I agree with you there. I like the higher lows. That's one of my favorite setups. Kind of forming a wedge here. So maybe a breakout of that and get us moving back to 200 with Tesla. I agree, Sean. Looks like a nice setup.
Okay.
No, I'm good, man. I mean, I just hope it goes to 200 because I keep rolling my options not to get assigned. And I need to free up that capital now.
Kaye was mesmerized by your chart there, Sean.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking forward to the 200 level, honestly.
No, so am I. Yeah, definitely. Be good for my long-term position.
Nice. Should we keep it rolling? Anything else on Tesla?
No, that's it, really. Let's keep it rolling.
Good stuff. Let's see more upside. All right, NIO.
So you can see the kind of similarities with the Tesla chart, where the kind of the 20 moving average and the 50 moving average is kind of coming together and kind of forming that joint support. We had a bounce off of that on Friday for NIO. This is the daily chart. We had a bounce off of that on the Friday, so I'm looking for it to kind of get above that 540 level. Lots of good things happening around NIO, especially around the news. So obviously you've got the latest release of the new Envoy brand, which is a slightly cheaper brand, a competitor to Tesla. I'm sure you've seen loads of tweets around that, probably from me. But yeah, that's exciting as well. Obviously, battery swapping, all that kind of jazz, deliveries and things like that are kind of increasing. So lots of good things happening for NIO in the news, in the news area. But the stock price hasn't really moved with it. So that, in my mind, kind of presents an opportunity. Obviously, I'm already in the stock. Everyone knows that. But there's a possibility here for another move higher, in my opinion, especially if we've got the earnings report just around the corner. Like I said earlier, it's not been released just yet. but I'm expecting it to be kind of towards the end of the month, if not very, very early June. So yeah, that's kind of what I want to point up on Neo here. You can see a very clear setup. I wanted to see if you could bring a bit more to the table, Nate or Kaye. So I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, go ahead, Kaye, you first.
No, I mean, honestly, I think from a Neo standpoint, I think it also back in the day it used to kind of align with how Tesla would move, but then in the middle it kind of separated itself. They moved completely differently. Honestly, looking at this chart, I would still target the 540 until it has a clean break and stays above that level. I wouldn't get involved in this. I wouldn't trade it until I see a clean break above 540 and it stays above that. Because I have seen like it breaks and then after a couple of days it just goes back down again. So you want it to build a support level at 540. Especially there is a lot of volume at that level as well.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Kay. And honestly, if you can get above 540, 580 looks like there's some decent volume to get above there as well. And but if you can get a higher high and basically retest 620 is what it looks like, Sean. That's a long run from where we're at right now. So I see it's like a decent trade setup as it's trying to hold these higher lows. And if it makes that higher high, that's basically $1 move on a $5 stock. So
is there like any major catalyst that is coming up?
Earnings, right?
It will be earnings, in my opinion. Obviously, we've got deliveries at the end of the month as well, which is expected to be pretty good for the month of May. Obviously, we've got Envo being released and lots of numbers around that coming out. But yeah, I think earnings is the big catalyst, in my opinion. A quarter to be looking out for, especially with last quarter, it's kind of almost turning the corner, but not quite. So this one, they really need to push and kind of turn that corner and obviously project for the future. Just on this chart, while we're looking at the chart, I think if we are talking about trading entry points, obviously up to you guys, obviously watching, or if you're into it at all, of course. But stop loss is obviously very important on these stocks as well. So you can see the kind of support zone around that 20 and 50 moving average with the two kind of the pink and the blue line, and you've got that 480 line there as well. So anywhere kind of below there, possibly 460, it would be my choice of stop loss if you were to enter at some point. But yeah, I just wanted to put that in there because obviously we've got to manage our risk, especially in this environment.
100%.
Yeah, really good call there. I like it. All right, Sean, this has been good stuff. Tesla and Neo, good to see you getting back onto Neo with the trading triangle. I always appreciate it. So where else can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm still calling out that, and YouTube, and obviously I've got a newsletter as well. That's kind of it from me. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week. I don't know. No, hand over to you.
I love it. What I'm noticing is at Sean Trades. It's really easy to remember, you guys. Make sure you sign up. He's got a lot of good stuff going on. I like the YouTube channel in particular, so that's my favorite. But yeah, definitely check out what Sean's got going on, you guys, if you haven't already. Also, again, if you haven't tuned into the Trading Triangle on YouTube, be sure to check us out there, subscribe, hit the like button, all the good things, so we can get the word out to people. We really appreciate it. It's been great. We had a great audience. We're consistently bringing over, today we're going to get over 1,000. We've been off for a few weeks, but we get 3,000 people tuning into this fun every Sunday. So looking forward to, getting more people out there and tuning in, help us spread the word. We appreciate it. And enough of that. I will continue on to the charts because that's what we're here for. And it's always hard to follow Sean. Sean has really strong charts. So I do my best. And we've got Snow up first. So SNOW. And we've got earnings. And this is what I was talking about earlier, you guys. So earnings Wednesday along with Target. And this is the next ticker I'm going to look at. And, Snow had this huge drop, formed this big gap up here, right? And then, it just kept dropping. So you kind of didn't want to touch it. But what I like here is this base is formed at a higher position than the last low, right? The last point of consolidation for Snow. So what I'm looking for is now we've started to make higher lows, higher highs as well. We've gotten to the top end of this massive amount of volume shelf here. And can we start pushing higher? And we've got the 20-day curling up above the 50. Then we could target the 150-day moving average, which is right around 175, call it 180. And I can see us, kind of slowing down a little bit there. But let's see if Snow can make an attempt to go back towards that gap. This arrow is aggressive, but if we do get a big move on earnings, it could be a nice catalyst and then continue to run. So I actually like taking a position like maybe Monday or Tuesday ahead of earnings if the shares can hold up above right around 160. So so far so good. And I would take it if you do look at a trade like that, by the way, and I'm sure one of you guys would call this out if I didn't. This is like an all or nothing trade, right? You got to expect if you go into an earnings play and you take an options position that it could go to zero pretty quickly. But I think the risk reward is going to be pretty decent given the amount Snow tends to move on earnings. All right, that's a lot for me on Snow. What are your thoughts here, Sean? You like this chart?
I do, yeah, very much so, and I completely agree with the earnings play there. Obviously, be cautious
Nice.
when you're kind of trading around earnings, but I would be taking a very small position going into earnings, and obviously playing it around kind of what the report says, etc. Because it was beaten down quite heavily, wasn't it, since the last earnings? And I think that was due to the CEO being announced to leave. Was that right?
Right.
I think.
Yep.
But yeah, I like the setup. I like the fact it's above those 2 moving averages. Obviously, we do have the 150 you got through the screen there. Is it 150 you got?
Yeah, that's the 150. Yeah. You know me.
So that'll be that'll be the next major resistance. I think if you can get above that and stay above that, that'd be awesome. And obviously, catalyst of earnings will do that if obviously it comes in positive. So I like the idea of coming in with a little bit of a position, but I'm not going to go mad with it, of course. But this is your pick for the year, isn't it? Doing really well.
Yeah, it's doing all right. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Man, okay. I set myself up there, bringing this chart up.
I think you'll have the last laugh. See, I'm in this trade right now. So
okay. Nice.
Yeah. So from a last earnings when it dropped, I took a strike price of 140, and you can see that it did breach, almost reaching 140. So at that point in time, I was pretty much in red. Now, as it's going back up, I'm looking forward to the earning, because then I will, if it goes up as planned, and the average implied move is between 10 to 12%.
Yeah, there you go.
But you can see that the last news, you had a $36-$40 drop. So that's more than kind of like 10, it's around 10-12%, similar on that. So you could see a similar trend over here. And I'm really hoping to close that position out. It's been a while since I have had it, since last 3 months now.
That's a good trade there. I like that you're trading at these levels. And yeah, 10% move would be, right back at that 150 moving average that Sean was noting. So
yeah,
that could work.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for good companies, generally when you see these kind of major reactions, that's when, at least I take advantage of.
Yeah. I felt like maybe the CEO departure is oversold, and that's where I'm kind of, and then you see the buying up here at higher lows. Like I like the setup. So yeah, so I brought it forward, even at risk of taking a bit of a ribbing. So we're good there. All right, next stock that we're looking at here is Target, also reporting this week, and I like the setup here. So just to kind of talk through it really quickly, there are a couple gaps. One still much lower, all the way down near 110, 120. I don't know that we're going to fill that, but if this wedge that's formed does break, there's also this anchored VWAP from 2 earnings ago that has provided support, and it would be breaking through that as well. And then there's no volume until you get down to about 130. So, I mean, if it does break here on earnings, we get bad earnings this week, I think it could, Target could drop pretty quickly. But I'm actually looking more for a decent report. We filled the gap back here. That's why I've closed this bar out. We had a gap that filled, in the 160, 165 range. And I could see this breaking out. We got, can get some momentum going. This is a little bit of a selling off after the recent run up. And so that could be considered healthy, close the gap, and then bounce from here. So I'm looking for an upside trade. I would wait for it to break above this wedge, hopefully get a bit of a retest, and then that'd be a nice entry point. What do you think about that, Sean?
Yeah, again, I completely agree with you. I think that 165 level is where you can see 2 clean bounces at the 18th of March level and 15th of April level, bounced off of it in a positive way, and obviously rejected off that just recently. So you could just imagine that line kind of going straight through there. So obviously, like you said, breaking out of the wedge and coming up above the 165 level, thereabouts. Coming back down, retesting it, and that would be a bit of confluence as well with the trade. So that's obviously something we look for within our trades, a bit of confluence. But yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. I basically need to repeat what you said. So
nice. No, I love it. And so that's more confluence. I like it. And then so we got earnings, and if earnings gets us up above that level, and then we get the retest, that's the setup. And yeah, so I love it. Kaye, what do you think?
I
Target?
think from a target I'm looking at the options data right now, and the put to call ratio is 0.95, so pretty flat, little bit bullish.
All right.
But your implied volatility is 74%. So if you are going to be buying options, you'll probably paying a pretty high premium, and if you're selling options, you'll probably get a higher premium on this one. So
Noted. So that could be interesting too. If you've got a position, you get a breakout, starts to retest these highs around 175, 180, maybe take advantage of these premiums. So nice. All right, guys. Well, that's it for me until we get to the requests. By the way, I got LULU and AFRM added to our list. So keep those ticker requests coming in, everybody. Good stuff. And you can find me at Trader Nate here on Twitter. And you can find me writing for Wolf Financial on Beehive. I write his Sunday posts. I'm a feature writer for Wolf Financial. It's great working with Wolf and company there. It's a great team. And then also I've got my own newsletter at Trader's Education, where I write about all kinds of things related to trading, helping you understand, my thoughts around the process, and hopefully helping you get to become a better trader yourself, and also share some trade ideas every week with those that are interested. So yeah, check those out if you have the time. And with that, I will hand it over to Kaye. What do we got first, Kaye?
well, the first one that we have is Square, and the reason is they just reported earnings recently. That was when I think it was 5/2, so that's when they reported earnings about 2 weeks ago. And I'm liking this range, because every time I see stocks in a range, that's when you can run wheel strategy on. And
Very nice.
this particular level, which is the 72.26, or actually 71.44, which I have drawn in the red line, is you see there's a lot of nice bounce from at these levels. So seems like this is going to be a good support level. Also, if you pair it up with the volume profile at about 73.27, is where the bulk of the volume is at this shorter level. And if you really want to trade, this could be a good range to trade in. The premiums are pretty nice as well on Square. So for next week, if you are looking at, let's say, a 70 strike price or a 71 strike price, you're getting about anywhere between 54 cents to 90 cents on that trade. So it's pretty good for ROI on a weekly trade itself. And if you are going higher to maybe 30 days out, you are looking at almost $2.33, $2.66 for a month out. So pretty good, decent returns on
Nice.
these.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Sean, you first.
Me, a bit more of a technical setup. I actually entered a trade recently for Square, so I'm happy you brought this one up, so I could basically talk about it for the viewers, of course. You can see the kind of wedge it's in now. I mean, you mentioned it, so you've got the kind of triangle coming down. I don't know how you can't do that on the screen, but basically it's come back down and retested that wedge. If you get my drift, around that kind of 71.44. So that was my entry point, obviously coupled alongside the 20 moving average as well. So I'm basically going to be playing it back up to kind of 76, 78, I think I've got on my chart. I can't really remember. But yeah, I've entered this trade. I'm looking forward to kind of the future, because the earnings report wasn't too bad either. It was pretty positive. They announced that they're holding a lot of Bitcoin as well, which obviously, if it continues to go up, then obviously that's pretty good for Square as well. But yeah, no, I like Square very much so.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I like the range that you got here identified, Kaye. And I mean, the one thing I would say is it does look like it's tightening, so maybe it is going to break one way or the other. And it's had, from what I'm looking at here, right, we've had the sell off, and now it's kind of flattening out. So it looks more like a bullish setup, holding some higher lows. So that's what I see as well. But definitely, trying to identify, I don't know about you, man, but I haven't identified too many tickers that are really trading in a clean range these days. Everything's kind of making erratic moves. You agree?
Yeah. I have seen that. Also, one other piece of news that could add to Square. I don't know if you guys followed. So I did my video last week on Square, and I think it was Barclays or one of those companies. They came out that the Square is now a good candidate for S&P 500 inclusion. Now that doesn't mean that it's going to be included, but it's now getting to a point where it's looking a candidate. It could be in the wait list. So who knows, maybe a year down the lane, 2 years down the line, it becomes, attractive enough to be added to S&P 500. So that could be a catalyst in long term. But I like this company, a stock particularly. It's in my long-term portfolio as well. So yeah.
That's interesting. You only get added to the S&P 500 if they view you as a company that's going to have future success, obviously. So yeah, that's great news. All right, keep it rolling, Kaye. What do you got next?
Well, next one is another favorite of mine, which is AMD, and we haven't covered AMD in a while. And this is starting to look interesting again. And we had this nice little, support level at around 150. You could see if you actually draw that line. I did not draw it here, but there's a nice little support level at 150. And then slowly with these, the last 3-4 trading days, you can see the strong the buildup that is happening. Now we do see a resistance at 50-day moving average, which is 167, and we are 167.81. So right around that corner. If it can break through that, and then we would probably try to see if we can get a little bit more volume shelf around the 170, 168, 178 level. So I looking bullish right now, but again, it will be tied up with Nvidia. So if Nvidia really reports good earnings and there's a lot more emphasis on AI, it could benefit it. On the reverse side, if Nvidia does very good earnings, but there could be say, hey, AMD is not able to take the market share, Nvidia is just expanding its market share. I mean, you really don't know how it will play out, but I think I like AMD as a stock, as a company. And so currently I am also in a trade with this one. So my put is at 150, and expiration is, I think, end of this month.
You sold the put at 150?
Yeah, I sold a put at 150, and it's expiring on, let me see, 31st May.
Yeah, I like that. That looks like it's probably going to play out nicely because, like you said, it's showing some bullish signs here, and hopefully Nvidia doesn't knock it back, right? Because I mean, this is a huge amount of run in front of it. Just to get back to the recent high, you got another 60 points on a $160 stock. So
yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen, but who knows?
The setup is there though, right? Because it's starting to show signs of life. But yeah, you're right. We'll be interested to see how the whole semiconductor sector moves with Nvidia this week. Are you sweating it? Sounds like you're sweating it a little bit.
I'll have to roll it out. I don't want to get assigned at 150 if it drops.
Nice. Well, long term, AMD is solid.
Yeah,
it'd be good. Nice. What do you think, Sean? Anything to add? I'm sorry, I've been rambling.
That's okay. I'm just Kaye's been very busy, hasn't he, with all his trades?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I've got nothing else to add though. No, you covered it all pretty well. AMD is one of those stocks that I stay away from. Me and AMD do not get on. So yeah, it's on my blacklist, shall we say?
Nice. I didn't know that. All right, I'm making a note of that.
Oh my goodness.
Where do we find you, Kaye?
Well, I am on Twitter or X, whichever you want to call it. On YouTube, actually, there's going to be an interesting video that's going to come out. One of the community members requested a specific stocks, Hames and Hers, whether they want to sell wheel strategy or not. So I'm releasing a video probably tomorrow. I'm editing today, and it's going to be my principles, 8 principles that I have on how to sell wheel strategy, on how to select a stock for wheel strategy. So definitely check that out. And today I did publish a new article on Substack, which is comparing the energy sector ETF XLE versus VDE. So definitely go check that out as well.
I saw that, Kaye. I gave that a like. I was happy to see you publishing again.
Once a month, I'll try to get at least one article a month. That's my cadence for now.
Yeah, and I saw the video too. So yeah, check out at InvestK. Make sure if you haven't subscribed, give him a sub as well, because great content always. And I think that brings us, you guys, to ticker request time. And I gotta say thanks again, everybody in the audience that's tuned in. I appreciate the comments as well. We very much appreciate you guys' support here. And we're going to get into some tickers and whatever you guys want to look at. So let us know what you're interested in, and we'll pull it up here on the screen. These are the Qs, the daily. Hopefully the sizing is pretty good here. It looks like it's working, but let me know if you guys can't see it. And should we just start with Palo Alto and get right into it?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, let's do this. So PANW is the ticker. Palo Alto is definitely a favorite of mine. And you can see we had this gap back here on earnings. Sold off massively from about 360 down to 260, right? $100 sell, 100-point sell off. But it's been gradually climbing back higher and we've got earnings on Monday. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I would, in this case, wait for earnings to actually play out before I took a trade here. It does look positive with the 20-day moving above the 50, but I just don't know. Like, I don't have enough information, so I would say from a technical standpoint, the chart looks good. All right, we're retesting this level here, right around 320, and if you can break above, I mean, you start looking at filling the gap. So that's my kind of quick, short analysis there. RSI is looking really strong, though. Sean, what do you see in this chart for Palo Alto?
I see an opportunity after earnings. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't go in before earnings, not at all. But I think once we have the earnings, whether it be up or down, I'm looking at that kind of gap fill, as you just kind of mentioned, which I've done at a level of about 360-ish, and obviously the lower level of 260 for a bounce either way, and just kind of basically ride it to the next support resistance level, whichever that may be. That would obviously be done with my research if that was going to be the case. But yeah, I'd be waiting until after the earnings for sure, and then playing off with what happens after that.
So
go ahead, Kaye.
So a couple things to keep in mind with Palo Alto, right? For the upcoming earning, you have 31 down revisions on the stock, compared to only 6 up revision. If you look at their earnings history, they have a pretty good earnings history, but they did miss on the revenue 3 quarters ago. And if we probably drag that 3 quarters, 1, 2, 3, we did see a big bounce on that one. That's very surprising. I don't track the stock that well, but keep in mind those are the couple segments. Also, if you're running options, it is very bullish. It's 0.78 right now, but your implied volatility is 100%. So it's going to be a pretty juicy premiums at these levels.
Yeah, that is usually the case with Palo Alto. The premiums for options are juicy. It's kind of in this nice little channel here that I was trying to highlight at the upper end of it. So if it breaks out, you can kind of expect to form another trend line, I guess is what I'm trying to say. A steeper trend line typically is what you'll see if you get a breakout of a trend like this to the upside. That said, definitely post earnings trade for me. So
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on Palo Alto, you guys? Should we move to Apple?
Apple.
Yeah, let's move on.
You guys heard of this one? Fruit company?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I went into the Apple store today, actually, just on a little side note.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
it's always rammed. It's always rammed. So yeah, they're doing quite fine. They're doing fine, let's be honest. I don't know how much cash they make per month, but it's in the billions. So yeah, they're doing all right.
Yeah, they'll be just fine, I think, this fruit company. But yeah, look at this. It's not what you see typically for Apple. Usually Apple's bottom left, upper right, and we've got quite a bit of chop and volatility here over the last year or so. I guess for me, it looks like we're kind of at a bit of a resistance point. 190 got some volume here as well. Might be tough to get above, and we've not made our higher. We had a high here in December, made a lower high in January, and then now we're trying to get back above that lower high. So, I guess we did get above or right at the February lower high as well. So, that's my next target, I guess, would be trying to get above 196, 196.50 or so. And then that would be, I'd feel pretty good. But otherwise, I don't know that there's no direction here is what I'm trying to say. Sean, what do you think about that?
I think this one for me, you could probably play a catalyst coming up with the WWDC event on 30 June. They're expected to announce something around AI. That's been quite some time since Siri was touched. And obviously with all the AI hype, they tend to kind of watch other people, Apple they tend to kind of watch other people invent things, and then they just make it better like 2 or 3 years later, or sometimes in some cases a little bit longer. And they make things better, they make it easier for people to use, and that's why they're so popular. Yeah, they're expensive, but people pay that for the premium, if that makes sense. So I'm very much looking forward to that event. I don't know if I'll trade around it, but I would definitely be more confident in Apple if they release something around AI going forward. So you probably both have shares in this long term, so I'm sure you've got a keen eye on this one as well.
Honestly, I would wait for the gap fill to happen. So the gap fill, because what was the news on Apple that we saw this? The news that came out was that they are potentially looking at ChatGPT or OpenAI to, use the AI features. Now, I think I agree with Sean here. I think the WWDC, which is, I don't know when it is. I think sometime in June, that is going to be the catalyst. I would wait for, because Apple has the tendency to pull back as well. There is really no catalyst, and there is no at this point of time, Apple is looking a little bit too expensive for me personally. I wouldn't get into a trade until I see where the company is heading to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. It's good stuff. Let's keep it rolling. Going to go to LULU next. I haven't looked at LULU in a while, I think, but we'll know if I have annotated it here. Nope, it's been a little bit. Had the big drop on earnings last time, and then now it's continuing to sell. It looks like, right? Tried to find some footing, and now maybe retesting that recent low at 333. Call it. Actually, it looks like it got as low as 330.61. So now we're right near there again with LULU. Maybe we get a double bottom. I'll be looking for a bounce right here at this level, right around 330, and hope it doesn't make a lower low. Because if it makes a lower low, then maybe you get a return back here to the 400 levels, but I wouldn't have any reason for it. You'd be waiting for a catalyst. Maybe earnings gives it to you, but technically speaking, what I'm really looking for on a positive note will be a bounce right where we're at. Sean or Kaye, you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, so I think definitely if we don't see a bounce, then I do see another gap between 320.21 to 328. We do have gap, and that gap was never filled.
Yeah, so right here is what you're talking about.
Exactly. So if it doesn't bounce at these levels, you could continue see further decline until we see that gap fill. Not generally, not necessarily all gaps are filled, but you can see the trend. If this gap fill will happen, imagine this was back in March of 2023, and you will have a gap fill in, let's say, May or June of 2024. So it ends up happening at some point in time.
Yeah, you get there. And we got this huge gap above, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be an immediate magnet. This is off of earnings, right? So they would have to do something or show something that recovers this lack of confidence. And so right now RSI is not doing great either, and not a lot to be positive about. I would be looking for a bounce here somewhere around 330, and you don't want it to go lower than that. All right. Keeping an eye on LULU. Actually, that's kind of interesting. If it does get a bounce, I think that's going to stick on my radar here. Highlighted that.
Yep. There's another one actually, Team.
What is that?
The Team, Atlassian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's right next with LULU.
All right, let's keep going to. Oh, it was right next to. I'm sorry, I missed it. Team, TEAM. I gotcha. I jumped ahead. All right, Team. Do you know about this one, Atlassian? Are you familiar?
Yeah, it's a pretty popular software company. If you are familiar with agile methodology, they're
very much so.
Yeah, so they're one of the most popular software is called Jira and Confluence. It's basically used for agile methodologies. A lot of companies use it. That's like a default software for a lot of companies. I don't trade it, but I know just the software company itself.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it too. It's actually pretty interesting. Not to get into agile and all of that, but yeah, it's interesting stuff. It's from a technical standpoint. I mean, we definitely have a bit of a downtrend here, and no real signs of. I guess just recently, this could be considered. We're making some higher lows, but we've seen that kind of action, and then it continues to sell here. So I'm not seeing anything too exciting here, other than if it does continue to make higher lows and fills this gap again, can get above the 50-day moving average. That would be nice, because then you won't have retested the lows of November. You've tested them, but not dropped lower is what I mean, from November 23. So I would like that, and maybe you can start seeing some upside. But that's purely just looking at technicals. Sean, do you have anything to add on Team?
No, not really. Like I say, it's a bit of a bland chart. Nothing too much popping out here. But yeah, that kind of 168 level, I think it is. That'd be a good support. But apart from that, yeah, not for me.
Yeah, look for it to get above 200. If it gets above 200, then you're going to have the 20-day moving above the 50. You'll be above the 50-day. That's when you can start looking for higher highs, higher lows, and maybe RSI will have ticked up even higher, gain a little confidence there. That's how I look at team. So, all right, good stuff, guys. Now we'll get to AFRM. Okay,
Yes.
we'll go to you first. What do you think about AFRM? What's going on here?
Man, I have not traded this stock in a while. Let me just pull up on my end. I'm liking how it's trading in a range, though. Honestly,
Yeah, it really is.
yeah. So we did have a couple bounce on the 200-day moving average, and if we take that as our support line, we could trade all the way from there to good $38 if there are catalysts involved. Let me see if there is any. You guys can continue while I find.
Yeah, so what I'm seeing here is, tell me what you think here, Sean. Basically between 30 and 38, I think is what Kaye just said, is a decent range, and we're at the bottom of that range right now.
Can you add the 200 moving average?
Yeah, let me do that.
Yeah, it's 30.95 200-day moving average.
If you look at that, it's kind of hugging it at the moment.
Yeah, you had a bounce the last 2 days. You had a bounce from the 200-day moving average, actually, when you pull that up.
So that's interesting. So it's coming right here. I'm not going to try to pull up the moving average because it'll take me too long because I don't have it set. But that aside, yeah, it looks like we're getting a little bit higher lows here as well with a big move on Friday. And right at the 50-day. So this could, if it comes back up, this anchored VWAP, by the way, is what this big thick line is from 2 earnings ago. I don't know. It does look like it provided some resistance here, and so maybe it will act the same way, and that comes in right at that top of the range. So I don't know. It's definitely ranging here for AFRM. Can you sell for premium?
Yeah, you have decent premium. Your implied volatility is 60%. So like at a 33 strike price, you can get 72 cents. So that's really not bad, actually.
No. What were you going to say, Sean?
Does this stock get impacted by inflation reports at all? I don't really know what they do.
So they actually will get benefit out of it, right? So inflation is higher, which means the product prices are higher. People will tend to not be able to afford the entire cost. So guess what? BNPL comes and saves the day for you.
I feel like I've been hearing more BNP conversation recently too.
Now there are, of course, there's the group that says, I guess this is not the optimal. This is not how you should be buying things. That's a different discussion altogether, right? Credit cards also charge you 30% if you miss your payments. So
we love our credit cards. All right, let's keep going, guys. What have I missed? What should we get to next?
Next is
Meta.
Okay, the Meta. Next is Meta.
All right, let's get after it. So Meta has been, that's right, the recent earnings actually sold off, but look, it just recovered and filled that gap. And that's right at the point of the prior earnings anchored VWAP. So, and at basically 475, which I have as a bit of a support resistance line. It looks like if we can get above 475, there could be a potential to run again, try to reach the recent highs. But this is kind of an interesting spot. What do you think, Kaye?
I did a trade. Funny, I did a trade on Meta as well last week.
All right.
And I did a weekly trade. So for me, I did a 460 sold a put at 460 if it expired worthless. So I'm taking the 20-day moving average as my support level. Okay. And the resistance probably will be the 50-day, which is 486.
Yep.
And that's the range that I'm using to trade on a weekly basis.
Very nice. All right.
I like the way you put up the VWAP, basically. Is that what it is? That white line? Is that right?
Yep.
I like how it's kind of bouncing off of that in a negative fashion. I've been looking for that to kind of hold and keep moving downwards, actually.
Right, because it provided support here really nicely.
Yeah.
And now that it's broke, maybe it does the exact opposite. Yeah. And this gap did not completely fill down to 400. So maybe that's actually what we're looking for next. Meta's in an interesting spot. I think long term,
folks were writing off Mark Zuckerberg, 2 years ago on the metaverse disaster. Yeah. That's what they're doing the same thing with Elon Musk, and it will come and bite them.
Yeah, here it is. This is a beautiful chart. So, just keep that in mind. Sometimes it's good to zoom out and get that long-term perspective. If this does sell off, maybe you're going to get an opportunity to buy before it starts marching higher. nothing's a guarantee, obviously, but technically speaking, this chart's very healthy for the long term. All right, C3 AI I have not looked at recently. Is that just? It is just AI. I thought so. For the ticker. All right, so this is very volatile. It's been moving kind of sideways here for a minute. Sean, do you trade AI here? Ticker
No,
AI?
I don't actually, not at all. It's on my watch list, like a stock list on the right side of Trading View, but I never actually click on it really. So,
Gotcha.
no is the answer.
Excuse me, I love it. How about you, Kaye?
No, I don't trade C3, man.
Okay, so I looked at it a while ago, but I haven't really traded it too much because because it's been kind of choppy, and it does form these trends, like you can see. But it's not the easy. It hasn't been an easy trade, so I'll just say that right up front. But just kind of looking at these levels, it did get above the 50-day moving average. The 20s curling up nicely on this recent run since April. So I just drew in the fibs here, just real simply from the recent high to the recent low. And if we can get above 27.20, that's your next level. And then 31.44, that looks like real resistance. I would consider 31.44 the target right now. And you're going to run into a bunch of overhead supply. And if you can get through it, then AI can really run here. The ticker AI can run 34.46 and 38.30 are the next levels. But yeah, 31.34 seems like or 31.44, excuse me, seems like real resistance that it's run into, a number of times and tried to break above on earnings and just sold right off right below again. So keep an eye on that level. That's what I would say. All right. RSI looks pretty good there, by the way. Appreciate you guys sending in these requests. We got Shopify up next.
Oh man, I love this one.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead. You start off, Kaye, because there's plenty to talk about, I'm sure.
Oh my goodness. So so this is another trade that failed for me. Not failed, but ended up selling options and I got assigned to it. So my trade was at 72 and right now the stock is 58 right now. So you can imagine what's going on. I think the problem right now here is the last 3-4 days we did see a little bit buying pressure at these levels because there is some volume shelf. But if it doesn't hold at these levels and on the fib 55.28 is one of the levels that I have drawn. After that, there's a big gap. If it breaks that, we could see the lows of 45 because that's a gap fill that hasn't happened in a while now. So
yeah,
what do you think, Sean?
I mean, you've got a gap fill down below, but you've also got a gap fill above as well. So if you do get that kind of turnaround in the stock, you've got a gap fill around 75, I think it is. Yeah. But yeah, I think given the kind of dramatic fall in earnings, it's more likely to go down, of course, because people, kind of losing it, kind of selling it off, etc. But yeah, you never really know, do you? This is not one I really trade at all. I'm not really a big fan of Shopify. Maybe I just never used it, perhaps. But yeah, no, not one for me.
So look at this setup, Sean. I drew this a while ago and I remember it very cleanly. We hit this high, it sold off, then it came back above, broke above, right? Retest. I missed this. Came back up, retest again. Great trade, right? Great trade to enter. And it did. It got all the way to earnings. And this right here is why you sell ahead of earnings, right? Like why, after making all these gains after a bounce, right? This was a nice trade here, then sold off. And then since then, it's been kind of tough. Like there's not been really a great setup in either direction. So yeah, not been a great recent trade, but I do remember this breakthrough of 70 and retest was nice. So that's the kind of setup I thought you might like, right? Look back on.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, RSI is garbage right now, though. Look at this.
well, for a long term, if you are looking to add, I mean, I would dollar cost average.
Yeah, you like it here for dollar cost averaging?
Yeah, I mean, if it continues to break, then of course I'll hold off. But I would start to nibble at these levels because I do have a long term position in Shopify and my cost basis is pretty low. But from the current trade standpoint, of course, my cost basis is 72. That when it got assigned with adjusted cost basis about 66. But still, I'm still in the red right now.
Nice.
Shopify. Yeah.
Nice. Still in the red. And I said nice. No, what I'm it's what I mean though, actually, is you guys, we're gonna tell you exactly what we see and how we trade it. And if we're in a trade, we'll let you know what our thoughts are. So Marianne, thanks for bringing up Shopify. Sorry we don't have more positive things to say about it. Same thing with like, a number of these tickers this week that they're just not all of them are set up. So we're going to, give you the real honest. And I do like to trade Shop. I do like to trade some of these names. Just not always, the timing doesn't always work well. But shout out to everybody who's tuned in this week. I see Stock Profit commenting on C3 AI. There's definitely a lot of opinions around that company. And I think it's interesting. If you guys want to look into one of these AI names that has an interesting past, look into C3 AI. It's definitely not short on news. I'll just say that. And then, again, we've got big earnings this week. So make sure you guys are doing your due diligence, take the right risk appetite. And again, shout out to everybody that's tuned in this week. I see Day Trader Rue out there, familiar name. So everybody, appreciate you guys tuning into the Trading Triangle.
Hey, we just got one request for DELL.
DELL. Let's get DELL knocked out, and then we'll wrap things up. But yeah, I like it. DELL. What do you have? What are your thoughts here on DELL, Kaye? I mean, look at this chart. This looks. Nice.
I am not I don't trade DELL. Also, I don't know, was it recent news or a couple of weeks ago? They had news that they said for hybrid employees, they have this a color code tagging system, right? So, depending on how many times you come to office, even if you're a hybrid employee, they kind of give you a tags. I don't like these kind of methods the companies employ. Might as well just get rid of hybrid policy altogether. But hey, that's nothing to do with the stock here. So
I could wax on about this for a long time, Kaye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'll get strictly on the technicals here with DELL. I mean, this is a nice looking chart. And then the recent earnings, huge gap up. This is a decent setup for a trade, by the way. That's why I've kind of take a minute to highlight this. You've got the upper edge here at 131 holding, right, and being tested a couple of times while we're getting higher lows, tightening up, forming this wedge, this triangle. And whenever you see that, it's a great candidate for a breakout trade. And if you can catch it on one of these tests of the trend line on the bottom as it makes higher lows, right? And then you can use that also as your stop loss. If you get this break, look, this is exactly what it usually looks like. Huge move up, then it'll consolidate, and then potential for an additional run after this, long period of inability to get over, and then finally it breaks. So I like the trade setup there. I think it's already happened. If you're in it, though, I think you might have more upside coming. And then we got earnings around the corner. So that's kind of interesting as well. Anything to add to DELL, you guys?
Yeah, I think with the setup you just mentioned, it's quite similar to the shop one we had a second ago. So obviously it came down, hit the support and moved up, but then it came back down again. So I'd be looking for that kind of retracement back down to 131. Probably sooner rather than later, just because you've got that trend line, as you mentioned. We've also got the 50 moving average as well, kind of coming up there. So you've got 3 points of confidence. You've got the support resistance, the trend line, and the 50 moving average. So if it was to kind of retreat back, market conditions, that kind of thing, retreat back to 131, that's the level I'd be looking to get in, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Good stuff, Sean. That's awesome. I love you guys. This is good. It's been another great week. A lot of good tickers. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. Otherwise, we can just go all day. You know how it is. It's a good time. We have a good time with it, and I appreciate getting back to it with you guys. I mean, we had a little bit of time off there, and it was good to get a break. But ready to get back on our Sunday routine. Appreciate everybody that's tuned in. We got our 2,000, members of our audience tuned in again. Really appreciate you guys spreading the word. Hit the subscribe button and all the good things. And for me this week, I'm going to be, easing back into it. I've got those earnings trades that I'm watching. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to a Trader's Education on Substack, I've got all those ideas posted out there. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out as earnings kind of, winds down a little bit. And I'll eventually get my position sizing right back up to where I was a month ago, and we'll be back at it full speed. So that's my plans for the week, is to start getting warmed back up. Sean, how about you?
Yeah, at the moment, my kind of strategy is kind of taking smaller wins and kind of letting them compound, just with this market volatility, don't know where it's going. So I'm looking for those kind of short, sharp plays between the support and resistance levels. So I'm sort of keep doing that. Why not? I'm not going to change up my strategy until it stops working, until the market changes. That's there's no reason to change that. So yeah, just remember when you are trading, obviously, just kind of trade with confidence and yeah, keep going.
Keep it rolling. How about you, Kaye?
That's it, man. From my side, watching the NVIDIA and the meeting minutes from the FOMC, that will be the key events. And basically managing the existing trade options that are open, especially for Snowflake as they report earnings.
Yeah, all good stuff. I'm with you on Snowflake, of course. And again, guys, if you haven't, make sure you check out @SeanTrades, @InvestK on Twitter, on YouTube, and also their writing on Substack. So good stuff all the way around. You guys appreciate it again. Looking forward to next week already. And we'll be in touch. But thanks again for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.
Take care.
Bye.
Good week, guys.